Hello, everyone. I'm extremely delighted to be presenting and sharing with you some time today. And welcome to Lintas Technology Solutions Day 2021. By way of introduction, I am Christine Maglake, Regional Director for Emerging Markets in Darktrace, currently focusing on Indonesia and Philippines. I've been in the technology space for 15 years now, previously working with organizations on enterprise application as well as research and advisory. I was previously connected with Gartner as well as Workday in my past experience. So if any of you would have any question throughout my presentation, feel free to drop your comments or questions in the comment box below. Over the next 20 minutes, I hope to touch on some of the key drivers for adopting AI as a key part of a robust, modern cyber defense, and how AI technology is currently being leveraged by security teams in the real world. I am representing Darktrace, a cybersecurity company that at its heart is a mathematics company. Our R&D center in Cambridge, UK has over 30 PhDs, and since the company was founded in 2013, that same team has been responsible for making major advancements in self-learning AI for cyber defense, including being the first to market cyber AI and pioneering autonomous response technology. With more than 1,600 employees around the world, protecting over 5,500 organizations across all industry verticals, Darktrace is the largest self-learning AI in the market today. We were recently listed as a public company in the London Stock Exchange, which was a fantastic milestone and a show of support for the work that Darktrace is doing. There is a general recognition that the speed and sophistication of cyber threats is increasing, and a sense of inevitability that attackers will increasingly leverage AI techniques to augment their attacks and bolster their stealth, speed, and effectiveness. Last year, the World Economic Forum noted that the first generation of AI-enabled offensive cyber tools were already emerging. While still it's in infancy, it's certainly something that as defenders look to the future and need to be conscious of and worry about. Both MIT Technology Review and Forrester reported that a large number of security professionals have already started preparing for AI-driven attacks and are anticipating that they will become mainstream in the near future. From a general threat landscape perspective, these are some of the key reasons defenders are looking for new ways to protect their digital estates. The pandemic and the associated lockdowns has necessitated drastic and sudden changes to the way we work. Many of us are working from home with more flexible hours, perhaps creating gaps in the working day rather than the regular 9 to 6. We access corporate services differently. We use home internet connections and adopt online collaboration tools and SaaS platforms. Sophisticated hackers are, of course, taking advantage of this noisy, borderless new environment. Meanwhile, mirroring flashpoints of geopolitical tensions around the world, nation state sponsored campaigns have also been increasing. These campaigns allow nation states to pursue their objectives across borders without an element of deniability. Oftentimes, they target critical infrastructures, much of which sits within the private sector and has implications for the broader society. Lastly, there is an issue of trust. With the increase in successful cyber attacks, trust in institutions that collect and house our data or provide our products and services is drastically being eroded. The reputational damage which follows a major breach can be long lasting, with brand names becoming forever associated with a cyber attack that put them in the headlines. Some of the recent examples include Toll, Lion, Colonial, and JBS. At the same time, we all know that the digital environment is currently exploding with complexity, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down. I'm talking about the adoption of cloud and SaaS technology, video conferencing solutions, online collaboration tools, IoT, and with some organizations, the convergence of IT and OT. We're seeing the network border drop away to a hyper-connected, interdependent environment, and this complexity and openness inevitably leads to increased risk. Whilst these new technologies bring great benefits to organization, such as increasing productivity or enabling flexible working conditions, they also leave security teams scrambling to upskill on the correct implementation and security configuration, and also how to monitor, let alone detect and respond to threats in the modern digital environment with their legacy tools. It is broadly accepted in security circles today that relying on retrospective approaches to threat detection, such as rules, signatures, or heuristics, which need the defenders to define the threat ahead of time in order to detect it, is just too limited. This approach will only ever catch a subset of threats we face, missing the more subtle, more novel threats which manage to sink in past these predefined goalposts, examples of which are 0 days or low and slow attacks, which live off the land and blend into authorized activity. From a practical perspective, defining the threat in order to detect it is also labor intensive, requiring constant updating and tuning. This simply cannot keep pace with both the evolving threat landscape and digital environment. Another legacy issue is that most security solutions are also siloed, focused on a single area of network, leaving gaps in coverage, language, and user interfaces between tools. The breadcrumbs of an attack may be scattered across a user's laptop, internet access, Office 365 activity, but without the broader context, these threats are missed by point solutions. So now we cannot predict all modern cyber threats that we will encounter. And even if we could, an increasing number of them are moving at machine speed. It's just impossible for human security teams to respond quickly enough. Security team in 2021 must be able to deal with the fast and unpredictable. This means embracing the right technologies to secure, enable, and protect the workforce. So you might be asking yourself, how does AI address these problems? Using AI, we can form a digital immune system for the business. Like a human body, we expect the skin to keep a lot of the bad stuff out. But we accept that it is also porous. Eventually, it will let threats inside. That's why we have an immune system to detect and respond to intrusions, biological or digital. It works from the inside out, expecting the threat will either find a way in or might already be inside. Like the human immune system, AI has no preconception of what the threat will look like. Rather, it focuses on learning self. What is a part of me? What is normal? And is therefore able to detect intrusions based on deviations from that understanding of normal. As the digital environment evolves over time, so does the AI immune system, constantly learning and reevaluating in light of new evidence. It doesn't need to stay across attacker trends, but only needs to continuously learn self and spot the attacker when they create change in the environment. It can be deployed to cover the entire digital estate: IT, OT, IoT, cloud, SaaS, email, and the list goes on, which means that it has more context and data points to draw on when forming its understanding of normal behavior, and does not give attackers anywhere to hide. Because all of this is done automatically, it lifts the security teams out of the grind of network monitoring and threat detection, giving back time and allowing them to focus on higher order tasks, as well as empowering the business to enable the dynamic workforce to continue working from their kitchen tables or their bedrooms, accessing new technologies in a more convenient but very secure way. Given the speed of certain types of attacks, we say, for example, a ransomware, the ability to detect at machine speed is often insufficient. We need it to go further. We need the AI to also make intelligent decisions about the most minimally invasive and surgical action that can be taken to interrupt that threat in real time, thereby holding the attack at bay and buying time until the human teams can then intervene. Even with slower moving threats, human teams simply cannot work 24 by 7 or respond immediately to the volume and variety of threats that hit our network on a daily basis. We need to allow machines to make certain decisions and take certain actions. These actions need to be autonomous, surgical, and proportionate to the perceived risk. Most importantly, they must avoid impacting the normal, productive, legitimate operations within the network and its users. This autonomous response technology has been deployed in over 1,200 companies worldwide since 2017, and it is relied upon by numerous industries to prevent business disruption caused by cyber attacks. This is probably the most interesting aspect of where AI is being used to augment human teams, and it is the third major pillar of the Darktrace platform, the Cyber AI Analyst. It was the product of a 3-year collaboration between mathematicians in our R&D lab and our global security analyst team to address the key challenge of cybersecurity skill shortage. What they did was they used supervised machine learning to study over 100 Darktrace threat analysts over a 3-year period, learning their tradecraft. When they came across a particular kind of anomalous behavior, how did they triage and investigate? What hypotheses did they form? How did they test them? What information did they draw on? What conclusions did they come to? This information was then distilled into what we call AI Analyst, a software which triages and investigates, pieces together the anomalies the immune system is able to detect at machine speed 24 by 7. It automates a lot of level 1 and level 2 analyst workload, and it also produces a plain English summary of the incident and the suggested next steps. It also pulls together the technical details that an analyst would typically look for: host, domain names, user credentials, connection details like ports, protocols, length, and time of day. This has been used by our customers for a few years now. And we found that the Cyber AI Analyst has been proven to augment security teams by 92%. Furthermore, the AI Analyst is constantly reanalyzing security incidents in light of new information and sends out alerts as it arises. A recent addition to this part of the platform is that aside from automatic investigations that are triggered by the immune system alerts, the security team can request AI analysts to conduct an investigation into anything they're concerned about. For example, a disgruntled employee, or could be a suspicious device. This is a snippet of a report that was generated entirely by AI. On the left-hand side, you will see a plain English summary describing the immune system, what it's detected, a suspicious chain of connections, which might indicate lateral movement from an IT environment into an OT environment. While it could be legitimate administrator activity, it is unusual for the environment and consistent with attacker TTPs, hence worthy of a closer look. Next to it, you have the technical details of each connection, a graphical representation on the right showing the chain of events, connections, and timings. No human was involved in pulling underlying events or writing this report all together. Now, at this point in time, I'd like to take a pause and share some real world use cases. The first real world use case is about a malicious file download in a box. It's an interesting example of AI detecting and investigating a compromised SaaS account at a global produce supplier. The threat actor successfully logged into a box account using a stolen but legitimate user credential and proceeded to download expense reports, invoices, and other financial documents. The threat actor also tried to unlock a file containing a list of passwords. Even though the employee whose credentials were stolen thus legitimately access financial information as part of their day-to-day activity, the immune system was able to identify the behavior as unusual immediately due to its bespoke understanding of that user's normal pattern of life within the network. The user don't usually download this volume of data. It was highly unusual time of day for them to be accessing these files, and the location of threat actors' IP devices or address was also anomalous compared to the employee's previous access locations for the particular SaaS device. When AI Analyst automatically investigated this series of unusual events, it was able to eliminate the wider narrative, understanding that each unauthorized file exposure was part of a connected incident and highlighting the likely credential compromise to the security team. The next use case is an example of a zero-day ransomware attack, where the initial infection and establishment of C2 had already been taken place when Darktrace was installed. When the ransomware became active, Darktrace was able to detect and respond immediately, as well as autonomously, before the attack escalated into a crisis. The first sign of a problem when the device started making an anomalously large number of connections to SMB shares in a corporate Dropbox account. It was reading and writing to several files, some of which were becoming encrypted with a new file extension. Antigena responded 1 second later, enforcing the device's pattern of life for 5 minutes, which meant blocking those unusual connections and stopping any further encryption. The device was also seen making unusually high number of connections to an internal server it never usually communicated with. In a likely attempt at a lateral movement and spreading infection, Antigena at this point highly and confidently detected that it's a ransomware. So it effectively quarantined the device for 24 hours, containing the ransomware for a human team to come and clear it up. In total, there were 4 files lost to the ransomware's encryption. Crucially, this strain of ransomware was not associated with any publicly known indicator of compromise, such as blacklisted command and control domain or malware file hashes. Darktrace was able to detect this never before seen attack based purely on comprehensive understanding of the normal pattern of life for every device within the organization. I hope that with the last 20 minutes, I was able to share and articulate the exceptional value that Darktrace is able to bring to your organizations and have provided a great snapshot into the current state of play for how AI is augmenting security teams. I'm going to stop here and I'd like to wish everyone a great day ahead. Thank you.